Now it's time for the VŌC Podcast. Listen up!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the VŌC Podcast, in which I'm interviewing professional voice actor Jon St, who's perhaps best known as the voice of Duke Nukem, the Postal dude in Postal 4, but you also might have heard him in Half-Life Opposing Force, where he voiced Dr. Rosenberg and the soldiers. Welcome, Jon, and thank you so much for coming back for a second time.
Well, thank you very much for having me back for a second time.
Well, I'm very honored that you're back, and I can't wait to ask the first question. To those who didn't watch our first interview with Jon, this is for you guys. So how did you get in VO and acting, Jon? Because, you told us in the last interview that you started out with the radio and stuff, but how did you get into voiceover?
That was by happenstance. For voice actors, there's a lot of luck involved in roles and even getting into the business. So I was a radio broadcaster here in San Diego, and a production director was my job. I made the commercials for the radio stations. And one day, Lonnie Minella happened into my studio to record a spot for an auto dealer. And I think you recall Lonnie was the casting director who originally cast me in the Sonic Adventure games and so many games, but most notably Duke Nukem 3D right out of the gate. And just the being in the right place at the right time speaks volumes. So she wanders in my studio one day and we meet. I record her for this commercial. We start talking about voice acting and such, and she asks me if I want to audition for this game called Duke Nukem. And that's how it started for me. So a lot of luck. I had a lot of practice in radio doing character voices over the years, but that I happened to be in the right place in San Diego at the right time, 1995, to meet Lonnie that day. That's how I got started.
Well, Lonnie is great. I know her. I mean, not personally, but she's great. She's just great. She told me about it.
She's a super talent. Absolutely. And just one of the sweetest ladies I know.
Yeah, same probably. IMDb lists Duke Nukem as your first gig, so that pretty much was your first gig, right?
I think they're listing that according to my memory. It's just that Duke Nukem 3D was the first one I really remember Lonnie casting me for. There could have been games prior to Duke Nukem, maybe Big Red Racing, one of those real early games, or the Candyland game. You remember the Hasbro game Candyland? They turned that into an interactive CD-ROM game, and that may have actually come before Duke Nukem. My memory is, scratchy. So it's possible Duke Nukem wasn't the first, but it was certainly among the first 3 or 4 games that I ever did.
Oh, yeah. It's just great, how when you got into voiceover, you immediately got this huge role that you didn't even know it was so big after years, right?
Oh, yeah. It was a decade before I knew anybody even played the game and cared about it.
Yeah. And did you, as a child, were you imitating any voices that you heard, or?
Oh, yeah. I suppose a lot of voice actors started that way. You learn your abilities at a young age. For me, back in the 60s and 70s, of course, the Warner Brothers cartoons, the Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck cartoons were very popular, the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So hearing the likes of Mel Blanc and Daws Butler and, those famous voice actors back in the day inspired me, to do character voices and imitate the voices I'd heard on TV. And that was very much an inspiration for me, that and listening to the radio a lot.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Josh one asks, so apparently you do great impressions of Jean-Luc Picard, Mr. Burns, Mr. Smithers, Roger Rabbit, and many, many more. And he is wondering if you could do some of those impressions.
Oh, well, let me think of something here real quick.
Smithers, why don't people like me?
Market research shows they think of you as somewhat of an ogre, sir.
Why, I should crush their skulls and eat their bones.
Or words to that effect. The Patrick Stewart, I've always done a bad Patrick Stewart impression. Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. But, Patrick Stewart's voice has changed over the years, as you noticed, as he gets older, like, all of us. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
When he was on Star Trek Next Gen, his voice was strong. Mr. LaForge, engage. You know, he had this strong, this is Captain Jean-Luc Picard. But now when you see Patrick Stewart, he's got that more weathered sound to his voice. You know, it sounds older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so his voice has changed over the years. I'm afraid at some point that's going to happen to me, too. I guess it happens to everybody as we get old. And I'm getting old.
Yeah, I mean, your voice hasn't changed too much, or at least I didn't notice over the past 20 years. I mean, you still do a great
Well,
Duke.
I hope not. I certainly hope not, because Duke needs to stay alive. Hail to the king, baby.
Yeah, and it's especially nice that you've made a cameo account where, fans can request cameos from you, which is great.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I get several of those every week. And what amazes me about the cameo orders and the con appearances and all that stuff is that, there hasn't been a Duke Nukem game for a decade, 11 years since Duke Nukem Forever came out. And yet the character is still so popular. I'm still being invited to conventions and recording the Duke voice for various projects all the time. It's a regular gig. Doing Duke's voice is a regular gig for me to this day.
Yeah, that just proves how big of a community and a fan base is behind Duke,
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have that fan base.
Yeah, and it's just great. And recently, you did the Postal dude for Postal 4. So how did that come along?
Oh, I think the reason I got that gig, I know Running with Scissors was looking for somebody because Rick Hunter was not available, and I think Corey was also not available, or they wanted to just get another voice. They figured they were on a roll getting different voices every time, right?
Yeah.
So as it turns out, Mike Jarrett, who's friends with a good friend of mine, David Eddings, who is, I don't know if you recall, David Eddings was the first voice of Claptrap in the Borderlands games.
Oh, yes.
David and I go back a few years. We're buddies. And David and Michael were talking on the phone, and Michael asked David, hey, do you know anybody who might be a good fit for the Postal 4 game? And Mr. Eddings recommended me. So they contacted me. And boom, we started auditioning for it. And they originally had me audition in a voice somewhat similar to Rick Hunter's. They wanted me to talk the way he did. And he sounded to me like a pukey FM disc jockey on the game. So I kind of did that. And they said, no, that's not it. And I said, well, then just tell me specifically what is the attitude? What is the character about? Because I wasn't familiar with Postal other than back in 97 or 98. It was banned in Australia for being over the top, stupid, ridiculous violence, blah, blah, blah. And that's all I knew of the game. I'd never played it. I'd never heard it. So I said, what do you want from the voice? And they said, somebody who's just really snarky as hell. And I went, God, you're talking to him. Listen to me. Do I not sound like the snarkiest SOB you've ever heard? And they went, yeah, kind of. You got that tone. I said, let me just audition in my regular voice. And I did. And they said, yeah, that's going to work for us. And it's incidentally the first game I've ever done in my natural speaking voice, which I hate. I think I sound whiny and nasally and crappy, my regular voice. That's why I like doing voices, because I don't like my own voice. But as it turns out, it was snarky enough for Running with Scissors, and that's how I got the Postal 4 gig.
Well, it was just great. And actually, I believe recently a downloadable content released with Rick's and also Corey's voice as like a voice pack or something like that. And I think that's just great.
Mm-hmm. So now you can play as any one of the three voices. Your choice.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have perhaps a memorable line of the dude, something that you remember, or something that the fans, ask
God.
you to say?
Off the top of my head, I have terrible short-term memory, dude. I'm really sorry about that. But the one thing I can remember is, hey, you want to sign my petition? Hey, give me a minute and sign my damn petition, will you?
Yeah.
That's about all I can remember, to be honest with you, because that was his goal, getting people to
course.
sign the damn petition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So you've been in the industry of voiceover for at least 20 years, right? So what would you recommend to the aspiring voice actors who'd like to get, into professional VO?
Oh, okay. Well, keep in mind, when I got into it, I had the advantage of having been in radio for, God, already 25 or 30 years at that point, because I started very young. So I had an advantage of, A, I had training. I was already very good at it. And B, there were a handful of famous voice actors doing gigs. Literally, you could name them all. You put all their names on one piece of paper in a 14-point font back in that day, right? Today, oh my God, everybody and their brother wants to be a voice actor. You can go to sites like voices.com or voice123.com and look at the total number of people subscribed who are trying to get their voices on projects, and it's thousands and thousands. So it's not like it was when I got into the business. So my number one piece of advice for anybody who wants to be a voice actor today is don't quit your day job. Treat it as a hobby, voice acting, because it's going to take years or a hell of a lot of luck before you book enough work to pay your bills as a voice actor.
Do you have any other jobs, on the side?
Oh, I do all kinds of stuff. Are you kidding? Yeah. As a matter of fact, let's see, today is what, the 6th? In about 16, 17 days from now, on the 22nd, let me just say, on May 22nd, I am DJing a wedding here in San Diego, right?
Oh, wow.
So that's something I do. I'll bring all the gear. I DJ the whole event. I play the music for the ceremony. I play the dinner music during their big sit-down dinner. I'm the DJ doing all the dance music, all that stuff for the wedding. And then I'm also a ordained minister. So I'm an officiant. I'm trying to say that word correctly. Officiant. In other words, I'm the guy who performs the ceremony, and I do it in the Duke Nukem voice. I've got one scheduled, 2 of them scheduled for October of this year, and I've already performed ceremonies in the past. I've done 4 in the past, not all in the Duke voice, but it is a thing now. Since I'm an ordained minister, you can literally have Duke Nukem marry you. so that's
amazing.
a thing. So that's 2 side jobs right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just great. I would never think something like that could be.
Oh, that you could get married by Duke? Yeah.
Yeah, for example. Or I believe you would do any other characters too, right? Not just Duke.
Oh, well, sure. If whatever. If you wanted me to marry you in the Big the Cat voice, that's your choice. But sure, I could do it.
Yeah.
It's just silly.
Yeah. Speaking of voices, have you ever used any of your voices to fool somebody? And if so, for what?
The only thing I can think of offhand is at convention appearances, I would prank call, when I meet fans, they'd have me prank call their friends, family, whatever, as Duke Nukem or as Big the Cat. So I guess that's about it, really, for fooling people. It would be, just the prank calls I've done at conventions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have seen a video of you doing one, and that was just hilarious.
Yeah, it's fun. Often we get very unexpected responses, but usually what happens is I get, 10, 12 seconds into the phone call and the person at the other end just starts laughing their head off because they know what's going on,
Yeah, and that's just wonderful. You still do a lot of cons these days, right?
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, what is the name of your panel, or what do you do at these conventions?
Oh, it all depends. I have various panels that I do. I mean, I've done panels on how to be a voice actor and what the job is all about. I've done panels about my personal background and silly things that have happened in my life experience. My manager partner and I co-host a panel called Jon St. John's Sexy Naughty Late Night Party, which is a very fun panel that's all sexually oriented as far as trivia questions and then these physical challenge games that are all sexually oriented as well. It's hilarious. It's an 18 or 21 plus only panel, and it has sold out the room every time we've done it. We've packed the ballrooms wherever we've done it. So I look forward to doing that again at some point.
Well, that's just great. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any conventions coming up?
The next one scheduled for me is KitsuneCon in Green Bay. That's coming up in July. And there are others that we're negotiating right now. I can't talk about them because we're still in talks and haven't signed a contract or anything yet. Yeah. And of course, my own convention that I own that I do every year, we had to cancel it this year because of COVID. It was just as things were starting to ease up, but we weren't comfortable going out on a cruise ship until, COVID is completely gone. So we had to postpone until next February. But my King Con cruise, that's a guaranteed convention appearance for me every year because I own it.
Yeah, funny you should mention that. I just wanted to ask you, what goes on these cruises that you host?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. Here's, in my experience, the reason I came to having my own convention, which is on a cruise ship, is that I've done so many convention appearances over the years. And it occurred to me, I sat down one evening and I was thinking, if I were a fan, how would I respond to this? How would I be enjoying this? Am I enjoying this? Is this the experience I expected? Standing in line to get an autograph, speaking to some celebrity for 10, 15, 20 seconds, and then that's it. And I thought, well, that's not very interactive, really. So I started hanging out at bars at conventions and meeting. And I tell the fans during my panel, hey, I'm going to be at this bar at this time if you want to hang out and have a drink. And, I'd have 30, 40 people show up. Whoops, sorry, let me stop that phone call. I'd have like 30, 40 people show up and hang out at the bar with me. And I found that the experience that they wanted was to really get to know me. Not just get an autograph or whatever, but to actually meet me. And, seeing somebody in a panel is one thing. You get to hear them. But getting to communicate with them and become friends, that takes, hanging out together. So I thought, if I ever had a convention, I would want to make one where the guests are actually interacting with the fans in some more direct manner than selling them an autograph card or speaking on a stage at a panel.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came up with my King Con cruise, which what better place to interact than in an adventurous environment, right? So on my cruise, the guests, not just me, but I've got, Wes Johnson and DC Douglas and Richard Epcar and Todd Habercorn. Yeah. I get great voice guests to come along and actually go on adventures with the fans. So I go kayaking or snorkeling with you. We'll climb the rock wall together. We'll play laser tag together and drunken mini golf. And I figured that's what the fans would really like. And so for the 100 or so people who have come along with us on the most recent cruise, it turns out to be right. We've all become friends and they love it so much that they're all coming back each year. We're going on our third year next February. And it turns out to be a formula that really works, where the fans get to really actually hang out with us. And then we all become friends by the end of a week on a cruise where we've done all these fun things and eaten all our meals together. We're all really friends. And it makes a big difference when you're on Facebook and you see somebody who's a fan that you've actually hung out with, as opposed to somebody you met once 7 years ago at a convention. I can't remember those people, because my memory is not great. I remember faces pretty well. But when I've hung out with them for a week on my vacation and I'm vacationing with them, I'll never forget these people. They're now my friends. So if you're the kind of fan who wants to be friends with celebrity voice actors or whatever, my King Con cruise is the perfect thing for you.
Yeah, exactly. I believe you also had Ellen McLean and John Patrick Lowry on, and
they were great. It was fun to have GLaDOS on our cruise, and John Patrick Lowry is just one of the nicest gentlemen you'll ever meet. We loved having them along.
I also interviewed them on the podcast, and they're just so great. I wonder if you will have them back sometime soon.
Oh, you mean as guests on King Con cruise?
Yes.
Absolutely. They're at the top of the list. I have a bunch of voice actor friends that I have to get to first. I don't want to repeat too many. There's only one who's a repeat every year, and that's Wes Johnson, because he hosts the Voice of Palooza, which is the big panel that we do during the cruise. And so he's the only one who's a repeat every year. But once we get through all of my friends who've asked to be guests on the cruise, then we'll circle back around again. And John Patrick Lowry and Ellen McLean, absolutely at the top of the list. Can't wait to see them again.
Oh, that just sounds really fun. Actually, recently you have posted on Facebook a League of Legends voice pack. So how did that came along, or
well, these guys who they own this company, it's getgood.ai, G-I-T-G-U-T, getgood.ai. I thought they were German at first, but they're not German. They just approached me. They sent me an email and said, hey, look, we're wanting to add voice packs to League of Legends. It's an AI program that automatically triggers these things at certain points of the game to help players become better. And we're wondering if you'd be willing to do it. And I looked at it and I said, well, let's see what kind of project it is. And it is what I call a long-term project. In other words, it was a lot of recording, many thousands of lines. That, because there are lines for each character that have to be repeated And there are actions to take, and there, just whatever your situation is, there's so many different scenarios for where this AI program can trigger my voiceover to come in. But what it is me in the Duke Nukem voice training you how to play League of Legends to be a better player. And I said, yeah, I'd be interested in doing that. You know why? Because here it is. The Duke voice gets out there again. There may not be any new Duke Nukem games coming anytime soon. But by golly, I'm still getting hired to do that voice. And now Duke is a part of League of Legends as, a voice pack that trains you and helps you through the game. So absolutely, I was down with doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought of it as so interesting because I didn't know what to think. Is it something official or is it just something fan-made?
Oh, no. This is done by, this is a major company that's putting this together. It was,
okay.
I mean, Riot Games sanctioned this. So, yeah, this is the real deal. So, and, it's only $10 to buy the voice pack. So I highly recommend that you and all of your gamer buddies go to getgood.ai and buy it for $9.99.
For sure. We'll include the link in the description.
Oh, thank you. I hope I sold it right then.
Of course. I mean, you're a radio guy.
Right?
Yeah.
I even cupped one hand over my ear to tell you to buy the voice pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a question from Fran F. So, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a voice actor, if that's something you can talk about?
Oh, wow. My strengths and weaknesses. Well, starting with strengths, I think my vocal range, first of all, from very low to very high voices. I think that I still have a very strong voice and I emote very well, very loud. And I have no fear in the studio whatsoever. I know a lot of voice actors who prefer to just do everything at home or in a studio with one person, across from them that they know already because they're shy to perform live. Me? No. I'm an attention whore. The more people who are looking at me, if I'm not the center of attention, I'm not going to be happy. So that is a strength because when I get in the studio on the microphone, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll and perform, and I'm not shy about it at all. As far as weaknesses, I can only think of one right off the bat, and that is that I get a preconceived notion of what a voice is going to be when I see artwork first. So I've been sent auditions where they send artwork, and I will often not look at the character artwork before I do my audition. I prefer to base the voice on the criteria they provide, not the artwork, because when I look at the artwork and I get the face of the character or the physique of the character in my mind, I make up a voice for it and I'm kind of stuck in that mode. And sometimes that's not what the director wants when they're going, you have the right range and attitude for this character, but we want to change it to this. I have a hard time breaking out of the voice that I made up for that character that I'm looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that is a weakness because it's so hard. Once I have the voice in my head, I can't get it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's actually
so that's a
pretty good
weakness.
point. Yeah. Do you remember anything funny happening during a recording session?
Let's see. One thing in particular that, believe it or not, involves Lonnie Manella. And the only reason I remember it clearly, because, one recording session is pretty much the same as another. There's a script in front of me, there's a microphone, and somebody on the other side of the glass. So every session is about the same. It's not like, it doesn't matter that you're acting the part. You forget it after you're done with it. But Lonnie directing me in the Duke Nukem 3D game, there was something about the captain's log. I discovered the captain's log. And when she's giving me direction, she goes, and I don't mean the log in the toilet. It's not like the captain was taking a dump. And so my first reading of the line, I went, the captain's log. And I couldn't get it out because I'm just picturing a turd in the toilet. And thank you so much, Lonnie, for that. The only reason, like I said, I remember it is because it's all over YouTube and on the internet as one of those funny Duke Nukem outtakes. But that's about it. I have very pleasant memories of different recording sessions. For instance, doing Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. Gearbox Software treated me like a king and flew me first class out to Dallas and put me up in a 5-star hotel, paid me handsomely to record every day at their facility, which was wonderful. and just a great staff of people that I got to work with at Gearbox during that time. I'll always remember that as one of my favorite recording projects because of how well I was treated during it.
Well, I believe you've also worked with Gearbox on Half-Life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that goes way, way back. That's a long time ago.
Yeah. And I don't expect you to remember anything, but after we're done with the questions, if you would mind reenacting a line or two, if I play a voice clip.
Oh, sure. Okay. Let's hear the questions.
Well, so Lonnie told me that both of you had dreams of being in animation made by Disney or Pixar, etc. Do you think it's a celebrity issue that's keeping you from it, or something else?
Oh, well, that is number one. Absolutely. The celebrity issue that the Hollywood A-listers are getting these jobs because the film producers believe that's going to sell more tickets to their films. And that's a shame, too, because you're hoping to sell more tickets based on a celebrity voice that may not even been the best voice for the character or the best acting for the character, because obviously your story's not strong enough, your animation's not strong enough. You got to bring in a celebrity voice for it. That's kind of a limp excuse, in my opinion. But yes, celebrity A-listers get all those roles now. There are very few animated projects from DreamWorks, Pixar, any of them that are really good voice actors as opposed to Hollywood A-listers. So yeah, that's the number one reason that we're not getting those gigs, is because I'm not known as well as George Clooney, so they're not going to cast me for the role. It's not going to sell any tickets. So there
It's
you go.
unfortunate, though, for sure.
Oh well. It is what it is. We have to look at other jobs now, and any voice actor will tell you if you're not doing advertising, you're not paying your bills.
Yeah,
It's
true.
not all about doing video games or animated projects, because I think very few voice actors are making a living doing that. You have to have side gigs, and of course, for me, it's selling mattresses and cars.
And that's a good thing. I mean,
It is a good thing. It's very steady work, and I'm paid well to be the voice of these different companies. So I'm happy to do it. It's an easy living. I sit right here where I'm talking to you from right now and record commercials about king size mattresses for the same price as a twin, and they pay me for it. That's pretty. I don't even have to write the script. They write it all for me. I just read it, and boom, I get a paycheck. It's a pretty good life. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, I guess you are. Speaking of which, the WinComp is asking, do you find voice acting to be fun, or is it very stressful work?
Oh, it's not stressful at all. I take that back. It can be vocally stressful, but as far as the job of being a voice actor, I don't find it stressful at all. I find it to be very satisfying, very fun, very easy. I'm very fortunate to have the job I have, and all voice actors should feel that way. And the famous voice actors especially, because not only did they have the talent to start with, but they had the luck to be in the right place at the right time to land the role that they got that made them so famous. So we should all give a great deal of gratitude to the powers that be for being voice actors who can make a living doing it. We're all very fortunate.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you did Duke Nukem, and that's just so great. People love you, and I'm not sure, maybe you have more fans than you realize, but I know you have a pretty big fan base, but it's just great.
I hope so, because doesn't everybody just want to be loved?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I hope I have a huge fan base. I want people to remember me when I'm gone as somebody who made them happy, who gave them something to enjoy, some amount of entertainment or joy. That's what makes me happy and motivates me every day.
Great to interact with fans, is it not?
Oh yeah, it is. Because I just want to give back a little bit. I wouldn't be anybody if it weren't for the fans. The fans are what make my fun work. My funnest work the most possible, because doing commercials every day, that is a job. It's a nice, fun, easy job, but being a lead character in a video game or in an animated project, that's the real fun right there. And doing the convention appearances, that's the real fun for me. The travel, the meeting new people, and I couldn't have any of that if it weren't for the support of the fans that I have. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful for the fans.
That was a heartwarming message. Yeah.
That was a touching and tender moment. And now the countdown continues.
I'm sorry, I got into Casey Kasem mode there for a moment.
It's all good. Do you have any
All right.
secrets for, repairing a thrashed throat?
Oh, hydrating, drinking a lot of water. For me personally, hot tea and honey is very good for it. But the best advice I have is to look up a company called Thayer's, who have various lozenges of slippery elm bark, and that tends to really heal up worn vocal cords quickly. It's not cheap often. You pay like $60 for a bag of lozenges from Thayer's, but they work really well. So yeah, there's your fix right there. If you've worn your voice out, get some Thayer's slippery elm bark lozenges.
Well, that's all that matters, that, you're able to fix your vocal cords as quickly as possible because, you have to sell mattresses.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, right. And, okay, well, I'm gonna write these 2 lines in the chat, from Half-Life.
Oh, let me open my chat screen real quick.
I'll play them for you so you can kind of remember the voice you did for Dr. Rosenberg. It was something like your normal speaking voice.
Mm-hmm. Let's hear him.
Yes, I'm Dr. Rosenberg, although I'm not very proud to admit it, seeing as though I'm partially responsible for all of this.
Yes, I'm Dr. Rosenberg, although I'm not very proud to admit it, seeing as though I'm partially responsible for all of this.
Is there some kind of an accent involved in that voice, or?
A slight bit, yeah, a little bit of the Patrick Stewart again. Just a little bit. I might have overdone it in the live version just now. But yes, Dr. Rosenberg. In fact, I just recorded some Dr. Rosenberg lines last week, believe it or not.
I know. You're working on a mod.
Are you familiar?
Yes,
exactly. A
but,
Half-Life mod.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask if you're willing to, work with the community, not only on Half-Life, but, how do you react when, like the community asks you to record something?
I'm pretty open to it, but I'll tell you, I always reach out first to the powers that be at Gearbox, who own the licensing rights, just to make sure. I mean, they don't own my voice, but if it's a Duke Nukem game that's going to generate revenue, I have to be very careful about that because I have a great deal of respect for Gearbox. And I will occasionally reach out to them and say, hey, is this cool? And if they're not cool with it, I won't do it. But all game developers and indies should definitely feel free to reach out to me all the time. They usually assume that I'm not going to do that kind of stuff, but I'm always willing to work with indie producers and developers, and they should feel free to contact me anytime about it. Serious inquiries only, though. I'm not inviting everybody to go, hey, will you record this? If you just want the Duke Nukem voice for something for fun, just go to Cameo.
Yeah,
go to the Jon St. John Cameo. That's the way to get that. And I've actually done some lines for streamers via Cameo. They wanted an introduction to their streaming cast, right? So I said, well, just buy a Cameo and write what you want me to say. And it's as easy as that.
Yeah, that's just great. And let's not discuss this Half-Life mod that you recorded for. I know what it is.
Okay.
So did you reach out to Gearbox here too? I mean, they don't own Half-Life anymore, but did you reach out to them, or how did the process go?
No. The fellow putting the mod together reached out to me directly, and I just went, oh, yeah, no problem. I can do that. It's just a mod for the existing game. I don't think there's, there's no big money to be made there. This is just a fan project, basically.
Yeah.
So I did not think that whoever has publishing rights to that game, I don't think they would mind at all. This is just an addendum to the game that's already done.
Yeah, that's right. And this is just so nice. So guys, if you guys are working on a mod and would, want Jon to do some soldiers or Dr. Rosenberg for Half-Life or, anything else, feel free to reach out to his
Don't be afraid.
email. Yeah, do not be afraid.
Exactly. Oh, and that is Jon for now, JON, the number 4, NOW, Jon for now, at gmail.com. And don't be surprised if I respond to you and go, okay, what do you want?
That's right. We'll include his email address in the description too. But guess what? We have a soldier line here. So,
Oh, okay. I don't even recall what soldier line voices I did, but let's hear.
Okay.
What do you got?
This is the script, and this is the voice line.
Uh-huh.
Where's Freeman? We don't have time to mess around here. I'm not letting you go until you talk.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I know that's me.
Where's Freeman? We don't have time to mess around here. I'm not letting you go until you talk. That's just me being gruff and angry.
Dr. Rosenberg is a different character in the soldiers, and it's just so so great that you made them sound so different, you know.
Oh, here's something you should check out if you haven't already. Is the old Twisted Metal 4 game, where I'm pretty much the entire cast. Me and Lonnie are the entire cast in that game. So I am everything from Rob Zombie to General Warthog to Ralph Jones to the sweet tooth spokes clown that introduces everything. Check out Twisted Metal 4. And then you go, oh, wow. Or Candyland Adventure. The only male character that I did not portray was King Candy, but I was all of the others, Gloppy and Lord Licorice, and all of the male cast I did for that game too.
Yeah, that's just great. Well, I'm sure the fans will appreciate that you did these two voice lines from Half-Life, because you don't usually talk about Half-Life. There is not much to discuss. They, just some miscellaneous roles that you forgot about, I think, real quick. So I think it was important to bring this up. Yeah, pretty much this covers up all the questions. So do you think it would be possible to say a farewell in the voice of Dr. Rosenberg to the fans?
Oh, yes, as Dr. Rosenberg, I think you should all thank Ronald for the podcast. And no, I sound like Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard again. I'm sorry, I don't know where I was going. I kind of lost myself in that.
It's all good.
Whoops.
No worries. It's all fun.
Anyway, thank you for coming today and listening to the podcast. I hope that you have a pleasant afternoon.